session. TheCoreofU, a community of restoration and enlightenment. As you may have seen in the news this week, there's this big thing about GameStop and trades and stocks and all of that. And I was telling the wifey about it a little bit, and I still have to, look into it some more to understand it some more. But when you look at it, I guess in the bigger picture, what happened was the little guys got in on the trade market and the big guys didn't like it. And so the little guys started making money and the big guys got upset, and so they're shutting things down. So there's just a big controversy going on. And so we were talking about that and just talking about
how you flip conforming roles in society, but we brought that into the family setting, the household setting, with regard to gender conforming and non-conforming roles. And we just wanted to talk about how you can leverage the strengths in your relationship by making sure you don't bring stereotypes into your own home unaware.
Yeah.
They can start coming into play subconsciously if you don't recognize it and become intentional. You actually could be doing yourself a disservice by not allowing people to play to their strengths and gifts versus saying this should be your responsibility because that traditionally is how it's done. Case in point, there's tons of stay-at-home fathers now. And with COVID, really is whoever has a job, go hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Because these are very perilous and unexpected times. So we got to talking about our own relationship, and just like case in point, you guys all, for those culture film enthusiasts, what is it? What is the one with Morris Chestnut that we were talking about earlier?
Oh, you were talking about Brothers, right? Was it Brothers?
No, but basically he got married, he cheated, and when she cheated, it was like, oh my God, how can she cheat? That's my queen.
Best man.
Yes. And gender conforming roles is a lot of times it seems to be more socially accepted if a man goes out of his relationship, but when a woman does it, it's complete devastation. Really, it should be an equal level playing field for all parties involved. Another point could be that men don't get harassed and women do. It actually happens to both parties, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're in fact, we have sexual harassment class, harassment class. They don't want you to say harassment. So sexual harassment class tomorrow at my job. And they're making all managers, all supervisors go, right? They're making sure that men and women, it's not just because they're finding in the workplace that both of those. So we were talking about in your home life, and a lot of us may or may not have grown up or may have been raised with kind of those old school values, and so you have to do what works for you in your house and in your home. And just like we work to do the things in our house and our home, case in point with our children, I have a younger son who's 4, and we have a younger son that's 4 and an older daughter that's 6. And we really tried to make sure when we were going to put him in karate, we were also going to put her in karate. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and so neither one of them got to go. Right. But once things open back up, we're going to do that for both of them. I'm training my son right now to play the drums. I actually tried to train my daughter too, and after 2 sessions, she was like, "No, I'll let brother handle it." And so that's his thing now. But we wanted to make sure that we even the playing field with things that they do. It's not just this is boys' thing, this is woman's thing, and that's it.
Right. I'm teaching. When it's time to cook and do dishes, they're both helping me cook. They're both helping me do dishes. The other day, I was having them sort their clothes so that they both can be independent, self-sufficient, and not conform to, the woman needs to learn how to do this stuff where he's outside raking and doing stuff with daddy. It's just like, hey, we can all pitch in. If I see him get tired, I'll bring the trash cans in. We try to share responsibility. So you really have to check in because people get tired. They need a break. We all need a break from, even if you are good at something, you may need a break. And you might need somebody to just back you up sometimes.
And unfortunately, especially like during this time, what if one of you were to get sick and become incapacitated in that moment? Then somebody's definitely going to have to carry the load unless you're going to get somebody else in family. So
I'm glad you said that.
Just be mindful.
On that point, y'all, please know each other's passwords to your phone. Know how to get into, even if one is paying their bills and you paying yours, you need to know where that stuff is, how often they do it. It's so important because you don't want to have to wait till you need it to have to find it and look around for it.
No doubt.
You got to have that kind of emergency plan thought process, or back each other up kind of thought process, because it is necessary. That's the kind of world we live in. You just need to be in a position to back each other up, even if that person traditionally does this. So I make sure he knows how to do the things I do with the children on a day-to-day basis with their learning. Even though he's not here, he needs to know how to be able to access it if something goes down.
No doubt.
So you have to kind of be intentional to set time aside to catch up on those kinds of things. I unfortunately was reading an article about how many young people are checking out, and young children, all these children are being orphaned right now.
Yeah.
And somebody outside of your household also needs to know what's going on in your household in terms of where your emergency documents and things like that. So that's the law side of me coming out, but it helps you get outside of there are so many relationships or people that are caught off guard because man handles all the money, or one person's head is in the sand on some details. You got to really open that playing field and make sure the partnership knows what's going on with the partnership.
And I think LaWanda said it perfectly. LaWanda Jordan said, share the load. I think it's very important.
I like that.
I mean, you want to be able to do that in all things, though, in your relationships and your friendships. Be able to share the load, whether it be the physical, the natural, and the spiritual. You want to be able to help, be there for one another, and share the load. And so it's not just me. And so there are a lot of things that I may do around the house, fixing things up and stuff like that. But I love doing that, so it's no problem. Hey, I'll be honest, she is a much better cook than me. I'm a short order cook, definitely. So she's a much better. But I'm learning a few things here and there. I ain't nobody's chef. I ain't gonna lie to nobody. But those are the strengths. I think it's important for you to know the strengths of your significant other in your relationship.
Yes.
And that's the thing. So when you know the strengths, then you can act on those. So one person may be better at doing this or doing these things, but when it comes down to the important things, if one of you becomes, as we said, incapacitated, then what? So for me, I better know how to make some kind of food, or call somebody and have them teach me and walk me through it. Do something, you know what I mean? Because I can't just have the kids eating pizza and chicken nuggets every day,
Well, and ladies, let's take it another direction. Traditionally, men are more sexually aggressive, but women initiate sometimes. Don't leave it all on him to be the initiator, right? Men love to be desired too. And on the other point, men, don't let us always be the one to initiate romanticism or, intimacy on a different level, intellectually talking, whatever. We've been there before. And it could be non-conforming. It could be the woman that likes it more and the man that want to talk. But whoever is the one, going back to the share the load comment, swap it up. Don't leave it all on the other person to do it just because it's the thing they do best. Because nobody wants to feel like, it's got to always be on me. Even in your workplace, you want somebody to kind of back you up sometimes. The same thing goes in your home.
No doubt.
Where you want to, you want to feel seen and shared and like you have support.
And this should be a conversation that you have with your significant other, in your friendships and the relationships and business partnerships. It should be a conversation that you have. Say, okay, listen, I feel like maybe I'm carrying the load on this a little more. Can you help me out? Or maybe, whatever it is, it should be a conversation. Or before you decide to really get in and really, really get serious and really, really get down. These were conversations that we had early on in our relationship. And, and I know, like, for me, I came from my family. My father was the one who really earned the money, and my mom did. But that was an understanding that they had. She kind of was more the stay at home and did more of the cooking and things like that. But my dad actually taught me how to wash clothes and iron. Actually, he was really good at it. And so my mom would, give me little tips in here and there how to make your stuff smell good and make it all nice and fluffy. But my father was the one who actually taught me how to wash clothes. And I watched him when he would come in, that he would clean up as well. Although mom was there most of the time because he drove trucks over the road. So it's whatever is good for your relationship, but just make sure that one person is not carrying all of the load. That's so unfair that they're carrying everything,
And I think what you said was so critical and key, because a lot of us, our frame of reference is what we saw coming up.
No doubt.
So when you just said you were able to see a man in a non-conforming role and do some things that would be quote unquote seeming more domesticated, right?
Right.
That allows you to be open to it and be willing to do it, right? I have seen, and we have talked to some couples where the expectation of either of the party is what happened in their household growing up versus understanding this person you connected to. I mean, obviously, when you're on date 3, you're not talking about, well, what are you going to cook for me every night? So these things kind of come up as they become relevant, and they can become very big sticking points if you have this unspoken expectation that when we live together or go to that next level or whatever it is that we're not at, that we're going to, that I'm about to do something that your mom did because that's the way it was always done.
Right.
If you really have these unspoken expectations or ways that you see roles conforming and you don't air it out, and then it comes up in your relationship, it can really become a fracture and sticking point. And if there's things you're coming in the door knowing, hey, I just don't do that, I wasn't even raised to do that, it might be good to let the other person know, and hopefully compromise, or some situations can come up where both parties can feel like they are being true to themselves, but authentic in the relationship, but trying to meet somewhere in the middle where everybody can live with this. But don't just put it on me because that's what you saw being done, right?
So, hey, we're talking today about just the gender role game, the role games and the stereotypes that we do it to our children. And we're working on it. I'm working on it with my son. I'm working on it with my daughter. I posted something on Facebook maybe a year or two ago about, unfortunately, one of the things that was trending, we just hit the year anniversary mark of the passing of Kobe Bryant.
That's right.
And I posted something last year when Kobe Bryant and his daughter and all of the others that were killed in that horrific helicopter accident. I seen more men shed tears on the death of Kobe and his daughter. I seen more men shed tears than I have ever seen in my life. Like, seriously, I mean, it was just a thing. You saw brothers hugging, like really, it was really it was a lot of men that were very proud to be dads, and they had the hashtag girl dad. That was a big thing that was out because he loved his daughter. So all of those things. And I think it's those kind of moments. We shouldn't wait till something tragic like that happens for us to be true in that. You know what I mean? There are a lot of women that will tell you in a heartbeat they don't want a man that's crying all the time or that's emotionally up and down all the time. They want somebody that's steady. And maybe you may find a man that say, I don't want no woman that's just so hard like that. They want them to be a little softer or whatever. That's your preference. That's fine. But we're talking about in life, when one is just carrying the load all the time, and that we have to think about share the load, and then making sure. So men, it's okay for us to tell our sons that we love them. It's okay for our sons to, my son sometimes, if he gets hurt, he cries, he's sad. So if I tough up, boy, toughen up, rough, don't cry. Then when he gets older, then now he has no sensitive bone in his body. And and he's dating and he's out there and he's being rude and disrespectful. Or,
and the messaging is that his feelings aren't validated.
Aren't validated.
So we have to assure, and that is something, oh my God, there's so many things culturally that happened that you do it because it was always done that way versus just questioning, where did I get this from, and is this something I want to keep doing in my family? Is this a message I want to send across the board without really stopping to think, do I feel this way?
No doubt.
Because
no doubt.
I agree, or is it just something I'm doing? Because
Yeah.
I learned. Is it just learned behavior?
So it has to be a healthy balance of it all, really. It has to be some, we have to, and I think, and let's be honest, as men, we need to find that healthy balance to get back, to kind of find our, I don't necessarily want to say our sensitive side, but just being able to be true to our feelings and what's going on, because so many men walk around and they're just so hard and they're tough and they need help and they don't ask. You know what I mean? Or so many men they're so hard, they're so tough, and they're sick. And so no, because I'm a man, don't go to the hospital. Don't get a checkup. Don't go to the doctors. And there are a lot of hardcore men that, guess what, are unfortunately in the cemetery now because they were too hard to ask for help, to ask somebody to go to a doctor and say, listen, I'm feeling something weird over here. This isn't right. My lungs, my heart, my headache, whatever it is. Instead of just, no, I'm going to tough it out and be tough through it, when really all it takes is for you to say, I need some help. And it's important. I think it's very, very important that we, kind of squash that a little bit. There are certain things that, are, I believe, obviously, in our home, I try my best to be the protector of our family and to make sure that I lead and be the head there and be the guy. But we still need each other. We still need each other to do this. We still, as James Brown said, I quote it often, I know they say it's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman, right? So we still need each other. We still need to work together. We still need to make sure that we compromise and find that common ground.
And let me tell you what's a big one that we don't even have time to get into tonight. Finances and spirituality. Because we know that the biblical standpoint is often written in the male vernacular. You hear all these things about a man being the head of his household, if Christ is the head of him, blah, blah, blah. I say all that to say a woman may be the spiritually grounded one that has to lead the family in the spiritual environment. And that just is going to be the way it is until both parties get on the same page. Also, we know, because of education and trades and just so many opportunities today, it could be either party at any point in the relationship who is the financial anchor. Mm-hmm. And what that means is you have to go in and make conscious decisions that just because one person may out-earn the other, that this is a communal pot and decisions aren't made by who makes the most money.
No doubt.
Because you are really going to open up your relationship or your partnership, wherever, you will open it up to temptation and just to be undermined. If one person feels invalidated because they're not the income earner, especially if you say that your relationship is spiritually ran, then the provision should be bigger than both of you anyway. And you should be looking at that way. We are manifesting this spiritually together, and it's but you're the vessel right now. I may be the vessel later. And if you can't do that, then there's some trust or other communication issues that need to be worked through so you can get to that point where you're not conforming to stereotypes. That's another stereotype that can creep in. We know for a while, especially depending on what group we're talking about, women are starting to get way more opportunities, and you don't want to make anyone feel like they are less important based on how many zeros are on their paycheck or what they're adding in the financial area to the relationship, because there is value to everything. So
absolutely. So it's about respecting one another, respecting each other's space. But that, it starts and it begins with communication. When you get into something with somebody and you start to say, okay, I'm going to be dating this person, or I'm getting serious about this person. These are the kind of conversations, and they're tough. They're difficult conversations because, as Wifey said, the first thing that's going to really come to the forefront of you is your past. the way you were raised, the environment that you grew up in. So that's going to be the first thing that you operate on. That's it. You're going to be, hey, Aunt Janie, love you. That's going to be the first thing that you operate on is, I know for me, my father was a very nurturing man, very nurturing man. Mm-hmm. Now he was, as they say, he was a man's man. He wasn't no punk, but he was very nurturing, very loving with us. He really took time to see about us. He had a really great ability to make you feel like you were the most important person at that time as he was talking to you, and then he could go to the next person and do the exact same thing. That was he had that ability to do that, so I got to see both sides of that. But it's interesting.
And who was the disciplinarian in your home?
My mom. Right. And my mom was more, now my dad, he didn't play. If it got to him, then it was probably lights out for him. Right. but she definitely was the one that was more the disciplinarian. Exactly. But it's interesting though. He became that way because his father, my grandfather, wasn't present. On my dad's side. So, and he wasn't like loving like that and like nurturing. So he just wasn't. You know what I mean? And so, and my aunt on there, they could be with my cousins, all of them. They called my dad. He was a big teddy bear, but his father wasn't that way. So, but he said, I'm going to be intentional about making sure that I'm not like my father.
And that is so important what you said, because you really got to take time to know not only your spouse's story, but their parents' story, your parents' story. Mm-hmm. I take so much time to talk to my grandparents and elders in my life, because there are things that are passed down generationally. There are things that are unspoken, and there are things that you just need to know. And it will tell you a lot about yourself and your significant other. And if you bring it to the forefront and make it a conscious part of a conscious dynamic in your relationship, you can deal with one another on so much more of a deeper level, because you can say things like, wow, I close up at times because of when my parents weren't together. There were times where I couldn't talk to my dad freely, so it made me more closed up. And when I see that coming up in my relationship, I can say, oh, that's just an old behavior coming up, But then when you know your own story and you know why you do certain things, you can prevent that from being an issue in your relationship, right?
Man, I mean, this is opening up so much. We won't be here all night, but I mean, it just leads me to say, for some of you out there, before you lay down with people and you get to swapping saliva and all these, and trying to swallow each other's tongue and all this other crazy stuff, you really need to have these these conversations. You need to have these conversations before you walk down the aisle with people. You need to talk. You need to communicate. You need to understand. Not only do I need to know you, I need to know your mama, your daddy. What's your relationship with them? What's your relationship with your family? What is your, if I'm a spiritual and a God-fearing person, what's your relationship with God? Do you even believe in God? What's your take and your relationship with money? Where are you there? How were you raised? These are the tough conversations that we have to have. Why? Because then you get down the road and these things start to come up. So then now when we're on this and we're having this time in this moment, and so for us, we talked about conversations. We knew that we were praying individuals. So we knew that we trusted in God. Maybe you're not that person, or maybe you're with somebody that's not that person. So when pandemic hit, it was nothing for me when wife said, hey, let's just pray. My children, we prayed together as a family. These were conversations that we already had, and we're raising them that way. So the expectation, it was nothing. But if you don't have these conversations, why would you even, and I've been guilty in my past when I was younger. So that's why we talk about these things, and really, that's why we're having these times and these moments to really be transparent, right? Because of some of the mistakes that we made in our past.
Right.
Why would you lay down?
Sometimes, unfortunately, that wisdom comes with experience.
It comes with experience, but now here we are, those of us that do have that experience. We have a responsibility to give it back to maybe some of those that don't. So why would you lay down with somebody and you haven't had those kind of conversations, and you're getting ready to swap? And there's an exchange, and there's things that happen with your souls and all of this stuff in your spirit when you lay down with somebody. So you have to be careful who you lay down with.
So the challenge tonight, the Core of You Challenge community, we want you to, as a family or as in your relationship, and if you're single, self-assess what are the stereotypes and unspoken things that are coming in. And unspoken expectations. So are there any gender roles or stereotypes that have come into your relationship that you need to address? Expectations that you need to talk about. And if it's as simple as, well, is there anything that you think just because I'm a woman, I should be handling that in our relationship? Or just because I am the financial, whatever it is, just because I'm the one that is better with the children, I should be doing. Whatever it is, talk about it. Challenge yourself and think to yourself, are there any things I just expect my significant other to do?
You'd be surprised.
Whatever.
You'd really be surprised.
There's some people that want to be kept regardless,
Yeah.
men and female. And you need to know that about yourself and be honest.
Robin said, I love it. And I would add, what is your life purpose? You going deep there.
Yeah.
Do we have similar callings so that we can walk in agreement and properly support each other in our call? You opening up a whole nother conversation with that. No doubt, definitely, because if both of you are headed in the different directions or different callings and different life purposes, then there's always going to be conflict. No matter how much money you're making, no matter how good the sex and all that may be, it's still it's going to be a conflict there. You know what I mean? When it's time to bring children in or businesses for you it's going to be conflict. So why not discuss it and have that conversation in the beginning with the hopes, and listen, you're not going to be able to talk everything out and figure out everything. But there are some things you definitely can have an understanding of as you begin to get on that path. And I believe we should do that with all things. We're talking about relationships, but we're also talking about friendships. You know what I mean? Why are you being friends or calling people friends that probably really should only be kept as associates? You know what I mean? Of something like that, or people in your close circle that y'all don't have the same life purpose. And it doesn't mean y'all both it doesn't mean that you're both going to be attorneys or you're both going to be ministers. It just means, what would you say your mom told you about your friends? Make sure you get you one friend
that's going in the same direction.
That's going in the same direction. So if that direction is up and they're going sideways, you need to make sure you get with somebody that's at least headed in the same direction. That's what, and how to, you're right, Sandy, how to work on being equally yoked.
We had a whole segment on that one.
We did talk about that before, about being equally yoked. It's so important,
Good one.
so big. Because people think, sex will get them over, or money, or looks, or some of that. And I think this pandemic and having to stay at home.
Well, as we said, 2020 showed a lot of people themselves.
Yeah, a lot of people thought 2020 was going to show them a whole lot of other outside stuff, but it really showed them themselves more than anything. It was a Michael Jackson moment, looking at the man in the mirror and asking him to make a change, right? So hopefully, prayerfully, that you just take this today, run with it. Hopefully that you'll sit down this weekend if you have to, talk about it. Have those conversations. And if you're somebody, this is just not for people in relationships. If you don't have a relationship, or you really desire one and you're thinking about getting into one, but you may not have nobody around, this is a conversation you can have with yourself. Because what are my expectations? What are some of the things maybe I did in past relationships that might have been detrimental to that relationship, so that I don't bring that into the next and make the same mistakes.
You're not looking for your significant other to be your daddy or your mom versus your significant other, because a lot of people are holding people to unrealistic standards. So it's just a checkpoint. It's a simple conversation.
No doubt.
What are the stereotypes? What are the gender conformities or non-conformities?
The gender thing is really big.
You are not just doing what was always done. Chart your own path in your relationship. Make it unique to you.
All right, y'all. This was a great one today. Good conversation. We hope that you enjoyed it. Follow us at TheCoreofU, CORE of the letter U. CoreofU, Community of Restoration and Enlightenment. We're on Facebook, Instagram, we have a website, and we have a YouTube page. We're going to be getting into some more of this year. We really hope to take it to the next level. If you have any ideas, if you have anything that you think we could talk about, we could touch on, any subject matter, you would like to discuss, we can maybe create an open forum where we can all get on. We have done Zoom calls together where it's just not us, it's a group of us really talking and really discussing what's going on. So, hey, as always, we hope that you have peace in your heart and in your home and that everything is good. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll catch y'all next Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So wherever you fit in there, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It was so good. I got my aunties on tonight, my cousins, family. Love y'all.
Appreciate
Peace.
your support.
We appreciate y'all.